The world's first jet-powered airliner was the Havilland Comet, but on the market was another aircraft that could have dominated the market, and it was not the Havilland Comet. This airliner was built in Canada, and pushed the airliner in the market of aviation, and it came up with this. A jet-powered airliner that has a similar appearance to the Havilland Comet with a capacity of 40 passengers. This was the first jet-powered airliner that was built in Canada, but not just built in Canada, but furthermore, the entire continent of North America.
To 20,000 feet and heads for New York. 59 minutes later, she zooms over Idlewild Airport, cutting in half previous airline records for the 370-mile trip. The plane, called Canada's idea of a better mousetrap in the aviation field, is the first jetliner to carry international airmail in this hemisphere.
America. Several airlines were interested, which its intended customer was mainly going to be delivered planes to Canada Airlines, which is now Air Canada. Even a few U.S. airlines were interested, with TWA preparing to order and receive delivery of at least 30 of these magnificent airplanes. This plane was also an easy job for maintenance and servicing. This aircraft was even described as 10 years ahead of its time, which is even more advanced than America's Boeing 707s. With the pride of Canada believing that they would lead the world into the new jet era, the project of this ambitious airliner, as well as the country itself, started to go downhill. In the year 1949, Canada Airlines began exploring a number of aircraft developments for their fleet. Over the next few months of researching the perfect aircraft that could be suited well for the airline, TCA and Avro Canada refined the agreements, signing off on April 9, 1946. TCA originally wanted an aircraft that can be used as an example of airplanes like the British Vickers Viscount, but in autumn of 1949, Bain traveled to England to visit the various aircraft companies, and during his exploration of the Rolls-Royce department, he saw an early work on what is known as the AJ65, a new axial flow turbojet engine. After returning to Canada, Bain changed plans for Avro Canada to use the turbojet engines rather than turboprops. Later, as a result, on Avro Canada came up with this. This Canadian-built aircraft with 36 seats, with a cruising speed of 425 miles per hour, a range of 1,200 miles. This aircraft was also required operating on existing runways with at least 4,000 feet. Load for this magnificent jet was 12,700 pounds and 50 passengers. The agreement for this aircraft was also specified a number of contractual terms that seem odd. In spite of TCA's experience with contracting the Ministry of Transport and Bain's personal arguments that the cost-plus contracts would be used as a ward against budget overruns, TCA's contract, however, fixed these prices during the entire development, as well as a fixed price of $350,000 Canadian. Despite this wonderful jetliner took its first flight on August 10, 1949 at Malton Airport, which was 25 months after the start of its original design plan. The jet also took flight 13 days after the de Havilland Comet. After such a successful flight, this aircraft was actually described to be 10 years ahead of America's Boeing 707 jetliner, and it was expected that deliveries were going to originally start in May of 1952. In April 1950, this aircraft flew the world's first jet airmail from Toronto to New York City in just 58 minutes, traveling at 352 miles per hour. This jet was so new at the time, the concept proved that this aircraft parked far from the terminal, and its pans were placed underneath the engines just in case they were dripped self-igniting fuel. On its return the next day, the plane came back to Canada, stopping in Montreal. But when this national aircraft returned to Canada, it actually suddenly disappeared in a flash of a powerful Canadian snowstorm. The Cold War was starting in the 1950s, and the Canadian authorities were in the midst of expanding into the military operations. Avro was involved in designing the first dedicated jet-powered all-weather fighter for the RCAF, the CF-100 Canuck. The project on the fighter was somewhat delayed. However, Avro Canada faced controversies working on their jetliner. Soon, Avro Canada never sold a single jetliner, and only 2 were built. The second jet that was built was nearly finished and soon broken up and scrapped. As the ambitious project was cancelled, Avro Canada carried on the production of the CF-100 Canuck, and these fighters would continue to serve the RCAF up until 1974. In December 1965, the single-built airliner was donated to the National Research Council in Ottawa. However, there was no room to store the jetliner. Sadly, as of October 2020, the only surviving parts are the nose and the cockpit section in the Canadian Space and Aviation Museum in Ottawa. For several airlines that were about to place orders for this jet, Convair was interested for offering jets to TWA, and Canada Airlines, the number one intended launch customer, bought instead the British Vickers Viscount instead. In the end, despite another Canadian-built aircraft being such a huge failure, its legacy carried on when mail company Canada Post issued a stamp to commemorate the jetliner. In Mississauga, Ontario, Jetliner Road was named after the late jet at Toronto Pearson Airport. Meanwhile, in Canada's capital, Avro Jetliner Private Street also remembers the aircraft near Ottawa's International Airport. If you ever got a chance and this aircraft was never cancelled, would you fly on this Canadian-built jetliner? Do you think it's better than its competition? Let me know in the comments. This is Mark, or Maple Leaf Aviation, and don't forget to like this video, follow my Instagram, comment below, and don't forget to subscribe for more aviation content. I'm so glad that I worked with so much effort to create my first ever history video on YouTube. Once again, don't forget to subscribe before you go, and I will see you in another video.